Okay, so I thought, it's kind of cold outside now, and I think just about everyone everywhere is kind of snowed in right now. Obviously, it's not that cold down here where I'm at, but I thought it'd be a good time to kind of do a wrap-up for everything that I found over the past year. So, and I've been kind of derelict in making videos lately, so I thought I'd kind of go over with you what the things that I found over the past year, and I hope you enjoy it.
Okay,
so let's get to it.
The first site, this is probably my main site that my partner and I have been hunting the better part of the past 7 years, and it's a plowed field that had a Confederate camp on both sides of a creek, and we started working over it, and really this place really came back to life once it got a deep plow this year, and we were able to find quite a few interesting things out of there, and you can just kind of see this was an early camp. We know it was used in 1861 when troops were coming down out of Alabama to take over the forts at Pensacola, and we've been able to recover quite a few interesting things out of here. Here's a hoof pick that I recovered out of the field. That's an interesting find, and we got normal typical things: pocket knife and one of this black glass and various things. I got a nice coin out of there. It's probably an I think it's about an 1808. Largy there. That's a nice coin. Most of the bullets we find out of this site are round balls, because this was very early in the war. Most of these troops were armed with antiquated guns that came out of the U.S. arsenals that had not been upgraded with the newer models. So you had a lot of smooth bores and things early in the war. Very few mini balls come out of here. But you can kind of see a typical range of bullets that we find out of there. Probably my best find, obviously, is this beautiful Alabama Volunteer Corps button I found last January in this field. And that was just, it actually got plowed up and was right on the surface upside down. I couldn't believe it. And you can see how good it looks. We've also had we know that this was used real early because just about all the other buttons we found out here have been U.S. buttons. And we know there weren't any U.S. troops there. These were a lot of militia troops and soldiers that were called to service in the state and were equipped with uniforms that were seized out of the U.S. arsenal. Things were there. So that's kind of typical of the things we find out there from the early part of the camp. Later on, we also know that this place was the site was used by Confederate artillery, and at least in 1864, early 1865, by the type of friction primers we find there. And thanks to Pete George, he helped me identify these are friction primers that are typical of the Selma arsenal and were only made in 1864 and later, that type. And you can see it looks like they pretty much just dumped a whole 10 of them out there in that field. And so I've spent some time reconstructing all the ones that were in good enough shape, and you can see I've still got a lot of them down here that are just too far gone, broken to reassemble. Another interesting find here was part of a scabbard tip for a Confederate Bowie knife that's typical of the Memphis Novelty Works. So that was a pretty good find there off that Confederate camp. So all in all, it's been a real productive site. Some interesting finds have come out of there, and we're hoping, when they plow it, it's going to come alive again this spring, so we're looking forward to getting back out there. Another site I found is also very old and dates back to around the 1840s or so. And we found a few good things out of there. This big piece of bar lead and some round balls and things, and also a 4570 cartridge from later on. But typical round balls. There's been a few friction primers found out of there too. One of my hunting partners found out of there. So we found some interesting things. Not a lot there, but it still bears some interest to go back at some point. I'll probably do that at some point here in the spring before everything grows back out. Another site we've hit is an old 1840s plantation site where we've recovered some real interesting finds over the years. My hunter partners found a bunch of things. My two best finds out of there are this heel plate and a 1851 3-cent silver. I don't know if you can get my camera here to focus, but that was a an interesting find. They're always fun to find because they're small, and obviously that's why they got lost so often, because they were so small. I was lucky enough to go on one of the invitational hunts up in Virginia, and did quite well. Got around, I don't know, about 30 or so bullets. Kind of a lot of things. Typical U.S. bullets, also some Confederate bullets down here at Enfield, and just a mixture of cavalry bullets and infantry bullets, and a few Confederate things. Also found this Confederate Block A artillery button, which was, I went 7 years and never thought I'd find a Confederate button, and I found 2 within a couple of months, so it was a very good year. I also found some pieces of looks like a fuse adapter, or a fuse adapter that's out of an exploded shell, and some typical, belt adjuster and things, and also a complete, my first complete bayonet scabbard tip. Actually, these 2 pieces were about 20 yards apart. I found the brass piece, and then said, well, I bet the rest of it's around here. So I started circling, and about 20 feet and about 3 rows over, I found the finial. So that was nice to be able to reassemble those. And the other site that we've been hunting quite a bit here is a local site that saw lots of action, and this place has been hunted really hard over the years, but there's still some things out there. And I think anybody that says that these soldiers weren't fighting at the end of the war, I'd beg to differ, just by the amount of rounds you're still finding there after people have been hunting this for 40 or 50 years, and there's still a lot out there. They were throwing down some lead, so I would say that those people were still fighting right to the very end. Now, some interesting stuff out of there, I think. I did get in one little fire pit and excavated this nice button and some charcoal out of the fire pit. That was interesting. The Union troops there were on campaign, so they didn't have the typical whiskey bottles and all that kind of stuff with them. Just some, you find charcoal. I was looking hard to see if I'd find any hardtack or anything, but none of that survived in the particular fire pit I was in. I was lucky enough to get that button. And because of the sandy soil down here, it's really well preserved and has some nice detail. One of my other good finds here is this bullet in wood, and you can see it's kind of dried out now, but you can see how this bullet is kind of solidified itself in this knot of this old tree stump that everything's rotted away except for the very core of it there, and that bullet's in there, so that's pretty neat. And just some odds and ends of K-shot and one piece of actual canister. That's a big projectile there. I've got a couple big frags. There's a small frag. I've got a couple big ones about the size of my hand that are in electrolysis right now. So I need to get these things cleaned up at some point. I just haven't got around to it. But that's kind of a wrap up of everything that I found over the past year, and quite pleased. So it's not the wrap up that some of the folks have on there, but for down here where I'm at, I think I did pretty good, and sure had fun getting out there. So I appreciate you watching, and hope you enjoyed it.